Good morning, dear Sangha. Good morning, dear friends. Today is the 13th of October 2013, and we are in the Ocean of Peace Meditation Hall, Deer Park Monastery, on our third day of the retreat with the theme of Finding Our True Home. We should consume in such a way that we could maintain and preserve compassion in our heart. Without compassion, one cannot be happy. Sense impressions is the kind of food that we take from the way of the eyes, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And the items that we consume every day might contain a lot of poisons and toxins. Television, magazines, books, internet, conversations may contain a lot of toxins like craving, anger, fear, despair, and we should consume mindfully to protect ourselves and protect our family. And volition is the kind of energy that gives us the strength to continue with our life. That is our deepest desire. That is what we want to do with our life. We have a purpose, because our life is not just to seek for material comforts or affective comforts. We want to do something meaningful, long-lasting with our life. And that is our volition. That is our deepest aspiration. That is our motivation. And that is a source of food because it gives us strength. You know what you want. And if what we want is only fame, wealth, power and sensual pleasure, that is not good food, because many people have been running after these objects of their craving, and they have destroyed their body and their mind. And even those who have a lot of them still suffer a lot. So you have to sit down and look to see whether these four objects of cravings are really what we want with our life, or we want something else. It's very nice if you sit with your partner and you discuss with her or him about what he wants to do with his life. Darling, what do you want to do the most? What is your dream? And that is our ultimate concern. The daily concerns are material comforts and affective comforts. But you want something else, something deeper. And you have to get the time to sit with your father and ask, Daddy, what is your dream? What is the most important thing you want to do with your life? Can you share with me, your son, your daughter? When you were young, what was your dream? What did you want to do with your life? Please tell us. Can I help you, Father, to realize your dream because I am your continuation? And when we talk with each other like that, we can open the heart of each other, because you are the continuation of your father, of your mother. And Buddhas and Bodhisattvas also have the dreams, their volition. They want to do something, to be something for the world. And it's very clear that in the teaching of the Buddha, suffering is the first awareness. The first noble truth is suffering, the pain. And many of us do not know how to handle the pain in ourselves. Do not know how to embrace our pain and get a relief. Many of us do not know how to transform the pain. And the way most people do is to run away from our pain, or try to cover up our pain by the way of consumption. And as we consume not mindfully, we get more poisons into our body and to our mind, our consciousness. And that is why that tendency to run away from ourselves, to seek forgetfulness, to forget for a while the pain is in us, that is in us, make us alienated from ourselves. We are not with ourselves. We are trying to run away from ourselves. And as we try to run away from ourselves, we try to run away also from our beloved ones. We become alienated from our family. And when we run after some kind of some objects of craving, we also abandon our family. We do not have time to take care of ourselves, of course, but we do not have the time to take care of our beloved ones either. When you do not know how to take care of yourself, how can you take care of your beloved ones? So you are alienated also from your family, and alienated also from nature. Nature has the power to heal and to nourish. And when you pursue the object of your craving, not only you do not care for nature, but you continue to cause damage to nature. So what happens is alienation from self, from families, and from nature. Maybe you want to become number one. Your corporation become number one. You want social recognition. You want fame, but you are running away from the most important things that is yourself, your family, and nature. So if a corporate leader, an executive leader, has the time to look deeply and see the suffering, not only of himself, of themselves, but also of the world. People are running away from themselves, from their families, and from nature. Maybe a new kind of volition can be born. A new kind of desire, a new kind of aspiration may be born. That is to do something in order to help people to go back to themselves, to go back to their family, and to go back to nature and preserve Mother Earth. Because people are going in the wrong direction. They are losing themselves in consumption. They think only of selling their products. They think only of buying products in order to cover up the suffering. And that's most people are doing. So your corporation, instead of trying to to help people running away from themselves, from their family and from nature, you might take as your aim the kind of work, the kind of achievement that can help people go home to yourself, to themselves, to go home to their families, and to go home to nature. And that is a new direction for civilization. You are producing products to help people forget themselves, to run away from themselves. You are trying to sell the kind of products that help people to run away from themselves. Now can you do the opposite? You produce such a kind of thing that can help people go home to themselves. Suppose you have an electronic device that can tell people that they have a lot of tension in their body, and they can remind them from going back and breathe and release the tension in their body. You have a kind of gadget that can detect adrenaline, the amount in your blood. They can detect the mental formation that is manifesting in you, anger, and reminding you to go home, to breathe, and to calm down the anger in you. In Bangladesh, we have designed a watch we call a Now watch. Brother Pháp Triển, he was a novice, and Thầy, we sit together and design that watch. And every time we look for hour, it shows now. And we have a chance to go back and establish ourselves in the present moment. Because now is the most important time. It's time to enjoy being alive. It's time to breathe and to touch the wonders of life. And this, when I sit in a hammock or I lie on my bed, I allow this sound to guide me in mindful breathing. Breathing in 3 seconds, breathing out 5 seconds. Breathing in 4 seconds, breathing out 6 seconds. And it helped me stop completely my thinking and just enjoy my breathing until I go to sleep. So this is a very simple gadget. And last May, we had a retreat in Hong Kong with 1,300 people. And I told them that in the last 30 years I have not used a telephone, and I can survive very well. Many people think that they cannot survive without the telephone. And I have not lost contact with my friends, especially with the younger generation. I still have good connection with them because I have been using deep listening and love and speech, and that is why I stay connected with my students, my friends, and I have never lost contact with the younger generation. People believe that if they have electronic devices, they can keep in touch with each other. But we know that communication has become very difficult between father and son, mother and daughter, husband and wife. It's not this gadget that can help you communicate. It is your mindfulness when you speak or when you listen. I told the people in the retreat in Hong Kong that in the morning when they go from their home to their house, to the bus station or the train station to go to work, because most of the people in Hong Kong, they do not drive to their workplace. The number of people who drive to their workplace is very small. Most of them use train and bus. So I suggest that leaving their home, walking to the train station, they apply the techniques of mindful walking. If they can stop thinking, if they can touch the ground with their feet in mindfulness, and touch the wonders of life in the here and the now. And then every step can be healing and nourishing. And they remember that that teacher is doing the same thing wherever he is, and they can connect with that teacher at that moment. And they don't need a telephone in order to do so. I said that if while you are walking mindfully and producing the energy of mindfulness and joy by the walking, you are connected with me at that time, and you can get my energy if you need. In Plum Village, no one of us has a bank account, private bank account. There are many hundred people, monastic and lay, living together. No one has a private home, a private car. Everything belongs to the community. We do not get any salary at all. And yet we consider ourselves to be a kind of enterprise, a kind of corporation also. Because we want to practice, to stay together as a Sangha to practice. We know that organizing a retreat for people to come and practice and transform and reconcile can bring us a lot of joy. And that is our nourishment, our reward, our happiness. And we know that if we do not have enough joy and happiness in our own community, if we do not have enough harmony and brotherhood and sisterhood, we cannot do that. And that is why we have the time to sit together, to eat together, to work together, to share together, so that harmony and happiness and joy and brotherhood become the daily nourishment. And then on that foundation we can organize and help people to suffer less and to experience joy and happiness and reconciliation. We do a lot of things. Organizing a retreat requires a lot of time and labor, but we learn how to do it as brothers and sisters in the community, and the work should not cause tension and stress. And what we did, we want to make a demonstration that happiness is possible with simple living. We don't have to consume a lot, to spend a lot of money. And if we have enough brotherhood, sisterhood, a mutual understanding and compassion, we can be very happy, very joyful, and we can help many people. So when we organize a retreat for business leaders, we want to tell them that they can also organize so that their corporation become a happy community. First of all, the business leader has to come home to himself or herself. That is the first step. This is the corporate leader. He has, instead of trying to reach out, he has to go home to himself. Because in him, in her, there is suffering, disharmony, and so on. And he has to learn how to go home to himself and sorting out and take care of himself. He's made of body, feelings, perceptions, mental formation, and consciousness. He has to be home to himself in order to take good care. He should learn how to create joy and happiness. He should know how to handle the pain in him so that he will suffer less. He will have enough joy to sustain himself. And then when he has done that, he can approach his partner and help her or him to do the same. Because love and healing should begin with yourself. So with yourself an example, you can help your partner to do the same, to help him or her to go back to herself and do the same thing. Learning how to breathe, to walk, to calm your body, to calm your mind. Learning how to generate a feeling of joy and happiness to nourish themselves. Learning how to handle the pain in him or in her. So you become co-practitioners. And if you have a child, and then when you take care of yourself, you can take care also of your child, and you have a family as the foundation in order to help other people. In the case you are a corporate leader, and then you, as a happy family, harmonious family, you can help people in a corporation. You have associate, you go to him and you help him to go back to himself. The practice of deep listening, compassionate listening is very important. First of all, you have to listen to yourself, because the wounded child in you is trying to tell you something. You should go home and take care of the wounded child in you. And when there is a harmony, there is a mutual understanding within, there is understanding and compassion in you, and then you can help the other person to do the same. First of all, your partner. And then your father, your mother, your son, your daughter, you say, darling, I know you have suffered a lot in the past. I was not able to help you to suffer less because I did not know how to. In fact, I have reacted in such a way that have made you suffer more. I'm sorry. It's not that I wanted to make you suffer. It's only because I did not see your suffering. I did not understand your suffering. That is why I have reacted in that way. It's not my intention to make you suffer. You got to help me. You should tell me, you should help me by telling me about your suffering, your difficulties, your anguish, your despair, so that I can understand. I know that once I have understood your difficulties and your suffering, I would not react the same way I have in the past. Please help me. If you don't, who will help me? That is the kind of language, the kind of speech that is called loving speech, gentle speech. And that is the object of the fourth mindfulness training. And you can use that language becomes natural. You don't have to force yourself to use that language. Once you have seen the suffering in him or in her, because every one of us has suffering inside. So once you have seen the suffering in that person, and you have seen also that that person does not know how to handle the suffering in him. So he continues to be victim of his own suffering. And if he makes people around him suffer, that's natural because he does not know how to handle the suffering, and his suffering spills over other people, including the people close to him. So once you have seen that, you are not angry anymore. Understanding suffering always brings about compassion. And with compassion in your heart, you don't suffer anymore. You are not angry anymore. And that is done quickly. You don't need a lot of time. Just look at that person and recognize this huge amount of suffering in him or in her. See that that person has been victim of his own suffering. No one has helped him so far to suffer less and to transform the suffering. And you may be the first person who can help him to suffer less. So you do like the Bodhisattva of deep listening. You come and listen to him. First of all, you use loving speech. There was a German gentleman on the 5th day of the retreat came to see me, and he said, "Dear Thầy, I could not believe that I can talk to my father that way before the retreat. I was so angry at him that I have made a vow never to see him again in my life. And yet, during the first 4 days of the retreat, the seed of compassion, understanding in me have been watered. I begin to see his suffering. I begin to understand the suffering of my father. That is why last night when I called him up, I found myself capable of talking to him gently, like the way you have suggested yesterday. Because at the end of, during this during the Dharma talk of the fourth day, everyone in the retreat is requested to apply the teaching of love and peace and deep listening in order to reconcile with the other person. If the other person is in the retreat, that is easy, because that person has been exposed to the teaching. The seeds of understanding and compassion in him or in her have been watered. But if the other person is not there, and then you have the authorization to use your telephone and practice. Usually people are asked to do it before midnight on the fourth day of the retreat. Dear Thầy, he said, I was surprised by myself. I didn't believe I can talk to him nicely like that at all. And that is not difficult to understand, because compassion was born in him. When he contemplated the suffering of his father, he felt compassionate. That is why, very naturally, he could talk to him like that. And they were able to reconcile at that time. Dear Thầy, the first thing I will do after this retreat and to go to see my father, he said. When the other person hear you speaking like that with compassion, with love, he will open his heart and he will tell you about his suffering and difficulties. And now you have the chance to listen with compassion. And that is also the object of the fourth mindfulness training. Compassionate listening is an art. Because you know that if you can listen to the other person for 1 hour, that's very healing. That makes that person suffer much less. If you do have compassion in your heart. And during the time you sit and listen to the other person, you should practice mindfulness of compassion. You breathe in and out and keep your compassion alive during the whole time of listening. And that is not too difficult. You remind yourself of one thing. I'm listening to him or to her just for one purpose, to help him or her suffer less. I try to make him or her suffer less. Just keep that alive. Because if compassion is maintained alive in your heart, what the other person say will not trigger anger, irritation in you. You are protected by compassion. What the other person say may be full of wrong perceptions, bitterness, anger. But you are not going to interrupt him. Because if you know that if you interrupt him and correct him, you will transform the session into a debate. And that will ruin everything. So with mindfulness of compassion alive, you tell yourself, poor fellow, he is victim of so many wrong perceptions. I am not going to interrupt him because I can wait for a few days. And when there is a good time, I will offer him or her some information so that he can correct his perceptions. But not now, not now. And that allows you to continue to sit and listen with compassion. And we know that listening like that can be very healing. If you are a psychotherapist, you know that if you listen with not enough compassion, that will not help the other person very much. If you have too much suffering in yourself, if you do not know how to handle the suffering in yourself, and then your quality of listening will be poor, and you can not help the other person, your patient, to suffer less easily. So the psychotherapist has to practice. He should know the way to create a feeling of joy and happiness to nourish himself as a therapist. If he only listens to the story of sufferings, he will lose the balance. He cannot survive very long as a healer. He should know how to generate joy and happiness for himself. He should know how to recognize and embrace his pain and transform it. Otherwise, he cannot be a good therapist for a long time. You have to nourish yourself, and you have to help yourself before you can help other people. We have offered many retreats of mindfulness everywhere, in Europe, in Asia, in North America. And we know that the miracle of reconciliation always happens in our retreats. It does not take a long time if you do the right practice. The right practice is to go back to yourself, recognizing your suffering and listening to your suffering. And then when you get lighter, you are in a position to understand the suffering of the other person much more easily. And when you see the suffering in her, in him, it's very easy for you to use loving speech. Darling, I know you have suffered a lot. I could not help you because I did not know how. And because I have not seen the suffering in you. Now I have begun to see. So please help me. And many people cry when they hear that, and they open their heart and they tell you. So the practice of deep listening and loving speech can always restore communication. And reconcile. So the basic practice should be taken up by ourselves. How to release the tension in our body, how to get in touch with the refreshing and healing elements of life in you and around you, to get nourished, how to handle a pain. And then you are in a situation to help the other person. Using loving speech and deep listening, you help your partner to do the same. You help other members of your families to do the same. And then you are in a situation to start transforming your business, your corporation. And you may begin with one of your colleagues, and you transform him into your ally. Because he will be with you, you have to share with him what is your deepest volition, your deepest desire. What is your motivation in conducting this business? And if he share the same aspiration, the same motivation with you, he become your real ally. He is not there to get only to get a job, to have a salary. You transform him into a Dharma tool, a kind of ally that will work with you to help people suffer less. In Hong Kong, we have also a Asian Institute of Applied Buddhism. In Germany, there is the European Institute of Applied Buddhism. We provide this kind of teaching and practice. In Hong Kong, there was a corporate leader who offered us a place, a temple, so that we can set up the institute and bring many monastics and lay people there in order to form the core of the institute. In order for transformation and healing to be possible, teachers are not enough. Teachers of mindfulness are not enough. You got to have a sangha, a community of practice. Because when people come and take a course and practice, they profit from the collective energy of mindfulness and compassion. And teachers alone, Dharma teachers alone cannot do that. And the Buddha knew that. That is why after enlightenment, the first thing he did is to try and find out the elements of his Sangha. When he came back to the city of Rajagraha, his monastic Sangha was already 1,250 monks. Because before enlightenment, he was asked by King Bimbisara to become his teacher, the national teacher of that kingdom. He said, "No, I cannot be your teacher. I have not attained enlightenment." And he promised that when he got enlightenment, he would come back and help the king rule in such a way that happiness and peace be possible in the kingdom of Rajagraha. So when he came back to the kingdom, he came back with a Sangha. He spent a lot of time training his Sangha. He knew that a Buddha without a Sangha cannot do much. And I think this is true with all of us. If we want to really help to change the world, we need a Sangha. You as a psychotherapist, you should have a Sangha behind you. Maybe a Sangha of psychotherapists, working together, sharing together, supporting each other, nourishing each other. And your insight will grow, your capacity of healing will grow. And you can preserve your strength, your energy. A Sangha is very important. If you are a corporate leader, and if you want to realize your dream, you can transform your family as a Sangha, and you can transform your corporation into a Sangha. Maybe first of all they come just to have a job and to have a salary to feed their family. But you can, with your good practice, you transform him into an instrument of compassion, of love. Because you want your corporation to have a purpose. And the noblest purpose is to help people to suffer less. And that is volition, the third kind of nutriment. You have to be nourished by that aspiration. And you have to nourish your partner with that aspiration. And then you begin to nourish other people with aspiration. So Dr. Jung, who gave us the place to set up the Institute of Applied Buddhism in Asia, he listened to me. He, as a good corporate leader, you have to listen to the many thousands of workers in your corporation. All of them have difficulties. So you begin with 30 people. You send 30 people to us to be trained in the art of deep listening and love and speech. And these people have to do it to succeed in their family first. They have to re-establish communication and harmony in their family first before they are sent to talk to every member of the corporation. And they would say, the chief of our corporation, the chief executive of our corporation would like to inquire about your situation. They want to know what kind of difficulty you have beside the material difficulties. They want to inquire about your family, yourself. And I'm here to listen to you and report to him. And they have to listen to every member of the corporation like that. First of all, employees feel that they are cared for. And this is not only just doing the work in order to get a salary, but coming together as a community sharing the same purpose and working in order to relieve the suffering of people. So the volition as food, the aspiration, the motivation of the leader should be shared by all members of the corporation.